Hello again, everyone. Tom Abrams here, and today I am joined by three people, even though you only see two. Rhett Bruno and Jaime Castle / Steve Bealieu. How are you guys doing?
Fantastic.
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Well, not as good as you guys with the launch of your new book, Cold as Hell. Tell us a little bit about it.
Steve, you take it.
Okay. Well, Cold as Hell is a weird Western, which means that it's a Western set in a fantasy sort of a world. We liken it to sort of an urban fantasy if it took place in the 1800s. So it follows a gentleman named James Crowley who died in a hail of gunfire, hail of bullets. I know people correct hail of gunfire, but a hail of bullets. After dying, he was resurrected by the White Throne to do sort of the bidding of the Almighty and the angelic handlers. And he goes forth to vanquish the demons and send them back to hell. There's a whole lot more than that, but that's the nutshell version.
And tell me how you guys came up with this concept.
I'll take this one too, and then
That's yours.
So I had lost my job a few years ago, and for some reason I just had this James Crowley idea in my head. As a matter of fact, James Crowley is two streets that are near me, James Avenue and Crowley Road. And I kept driving past it, and I just saw James Crowley, and this character voice just kept speaking to me. So one day I sat down and I wrote about 10,000 words that had no story at all. It was just this guy who, the only story I had was that James Crowley was originally supposed to be the reincarnated angel of death. And through a series of events, Audible Originals was really interested in the idea. They liked the character. Again, it was just like a character study on this cowboy. So after doing that and they expressed interest, I talked to Rhett and I'm like, okay, cool. He likes this voice. Sorry, that was Rhett's dog going nuts. I don't have a story. And so I went to Rhett and I'm like, let's write this together, but we need a story. And so it evolved a ton from that one day, 10,000 word kind of vomit write.
And Rhett, your involvement, did you help give the idea a plot or something forward that Steve initially just had this kind of genius moment but wasn't sure what to do with it? We can't hear you. You're muted, I think, because of your dog.
Yep, sorry. Yeah, initially it was probably like 7,000 words of just like character doing some stuff. Like Steve said, it was more, he was the angel of death. It was all a little bit smaller and everyone was a certain character. And I kind of took that intro and we worked together to build out a whole story for Dead Acre, which is the prequel novella, and then into a novel, build out the lore a little bit more to make like basically this group of hand of gods, which is what Crowley is, which they're sort of almost enforcers for heaven on earth. And we gave him an angelic handler. So he wasn't an angel, like the angels handle him, and it created more of this back and forth, sort of unsure relationship between Crowley and the White Throne. So that was sort of where we built it from, kind of an initial idea into something with enough lore and scale that we thought it could become a series.
So I know you guys sent me the trailer, which Blackstone did for you, and we're going to play it so that people can see it. Now that they've heard from you what the story is about, let's find out what it actually is about.
I didn't always make the best choices in life, and I fear that attribute followed me into the unlife I now had. I've tried to be a better man now, sure. Not to rob people who didn't deserve it, or hurt people who didn't have it coming. Good choices don't always mean doing right or wrong things, especially when it comes to serving a master like I do. Most folks who see a demon beast like the Yeti tuck tail and run, hoping someone else will deal with it. Problem is, I'm that someone. Nothing's ever easy for a black badge.
So did that capture it?
I could watch that 20 times. Can we watch it again?
Sure. Play it again later. Tell me about the process. Before we get into what you all do as your day jobs, talk about the process of writing this as co-authors, the fun part of it, the difficult part of it.
Well, I think Rhett clarified this, but I do want to say that the only thing that I wrote sort of specifically individually was just that first 7,000 to 10,000 words, and then from that point on, Rhett and I we worked on this thing 100% of the way through. It's first person, so the challenge there. Rhett and I have written a 6-book fantasy series, epic fantasy series, and it was multiple points of view. I think by the end there was 16 points of view by the end of book 6. And so with that, we were able to take individual characters, and like I would write a character, Rhett would write a character, and then we'd swap and sort of put our own spin and fixes and all of that stuff into it. With this one, because it's a first person story and there's not multiple characters to work through, we sort of just take the chapters where we have vision for them. I've got a scene, he's got a scene. We sort of have the outline more with this than we have with anything else we've worked on, because we sort of needed that outline. So we'll look at the outline and we'll go, hey, I have a really cool vision for this chapter. I'm going to write it. And then when I'm done writing it, I'm going to give it to Rhett, and Rhett's going to go through it as what we call a co-author edit, which is far deeper than any other kinds of edits that we do. It's like a developmental edit, a line edit, a copy edit, but then also just writing into it in such a way that it builds out the vision in both of our heads. So that's kind of the process with the Black Badge series. Is we touch every word 100%, both of us. So it's a cool process. It doesn't shorten the process at all. It actually is probably it's longer from start to finish with the two of us writing together than it would be, I think, if either of us wrote it alone. But it's much better for it.
And Rhett, do you like the process of co-writing?
Oh yeah, we've done usually third person, which I think, like you said, is a little easier. You could sort of divide and conquer characters. With this, we both basically had to find the same voice for the character. And yeah, like you said, basically follow a loose outline, write the portions we're excited about, and then sort of thread the scenes together. But the fact that we knew what narrator we're writing for and had Dead Acre to base off of, we both kind of learned the voice already to start doing a novel. But yeah, it's not easy because we do try to stay honest to the time period, both technology wise, how people talk, all of that detail. So yeah, having two people really lets us basically be each other's editors as we go. So we wound up with a much cleaner product after all the work.
So even though it takes maybe longer because you're each going through everything, in the end, what you have and what you're submitting to the publisher is a better product because it's already had two sets of eyes on it.
Right.
Yeah.
And Rhett's a strong dev editor. I consider myself a strong copy line editor. So really by the end of it, I usually do the final pass and make sure that it reads as one voice. And like Rhett said, because we knew that Roger Clark, who is the voice of well, he's not just the voice of Arthur Morgan. He was the actor behind all of the motions and movements for Red Dead Redemption 2. It was so simple for us to just hear Roger in our head. We both played Red Dead Redemption 2. We both listened to Dead Acre several times. And so when you're writing it, as a matter of fact, in that trailer, you even heard, I was really happy that Blackstone used it, the Shaw, right? Because Roger Clark has a Shaw. And that's a famous sort of way that he says the word sure from Red Dead Redemption 2. And so we were able to use a lot of those little things. Not to necessarily, it almost sometimes feels like we're stealing from Red Dead Redemption 2, but I mean, it's just that video game is so true to the time period, and that's what we're trying to do as well. So they mirror each other so well that I think all the fans have really clung on to it.
So there's a lot of talk in writing about writing to market, right? But
Yeah.
when you're sort of creating your own niche genre, there is no market to write to. So
Yeah.
just write what you wanted to read in this case.
I think at least. Oh, Rhett, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, basically, right? Like, I know Steve wanted to really write something that felt as good as Dresden Files and in that same sort of vein. But obviously, with the location and the time period, there just aren't that many popular weird westerns. And one thing we wanted to that was really important to us was emphasis on the weird, right? Not just a western with some magic in it, but we wanted the fantasy aspects to be integral to the world, to the story, to everything.
Yeah, that genre tends to the weird western genre tends to lend itself a lot of times to that sort of steampunk western, and we specifically wanted to avoid that. We wanted it to feel like this was an alternate history of America without using the names of cities and states and things of that nature. There are some historical figures, especially in Cold as Hell. You know, we bring in Bram Stoker, and we bring in mentions of the Civil War and things like they did happen, but they happened in a way that was different. Abraham Lincoln's mentioned. So we wanted to not get caught up in the steampunk thing. There's no flying blimps. There's no mechanical arms or legs or blaster rifles or anything like that. This is a true grit western mixed with an urban fantasy like the Dresden Files. And we hope that we married those two things together so that fans of westerns and fans of urban fantasy both just go to this and go, this is something I've always wanted that I didn't even know I wanted.
And in addition to writing prolifically, you also run your own company. For the few people out there who don't know about Aethon, Rhett, why don't you begin by telling people about the genesis of this company?
Yeah, so Aethon Books was sort of what happened when me and Steve started writing together, obviously writing science fiction and fantasy. And we both always talked about sort of using all the things we've learned to help some author friends who aren't into marketing get into publishing, and we would publish for them. And then when Steve was laid off from his job and I kind of went part-time / was leaving my job to finish writing a series, we both decided, screw it, let's do it. And basically it started off of a $4,000 Kickstarter and like 5 authors. And in 4 years, we've grown to be one of the bigger independent science fiction and fantasy publishers out there. We even published a series by you.
Exactly.
More than one. Yeah, more than one series.
Yeah, more than one.
more than one, but apparently one of the two was forgettable. Tell me about tell me about how you all grew this not only as quickly but as successfully as you did, because there are a lot of authors out there, a lot of independent authors who try their hand at starting a publishing company, and some have no success, some sort of just kind of stay along at this level. You all have really exploded.
We were asked last year to speak at a conference called 20 Books in Vegas, and our subject matter was starting a publishing company. And the first thing that I said when I got up there is, we're not going to tell you how to do what we do well. We'll tell you the pitfalls. I mean, obviously, we're not going to create competitors for ourselves by telling all of our secrets. But at the same time, there's pitfalls to avoid. And then there's the big question we had up front was like, are you an author who knows how to sell your own books? And are you sure that your books don't just sell because you hit algorithm 10 years ago and Amazon has loved you since, right? Like we started writing together. Rhett wrote before me. Rhett was a Random House Hydra author. And, Rhett saw some sort of small success in that. And we didn't build our company out of a strongly established author name. Like, we were not, hi, I'm Stephen King and I'm going to start a publishing company, right? Like we didn't have that. So we had to learn how to sell our own books when the algorithm was not working for us. And so doing publishing as an author, we see them, yeah, like you said, they kind of come and go, authors that go, I think I could do this. I think I could do this. There are some successes, but at the same time, we're both really risk takers. Some of the stuff that Rhett and I have taken risks on over the past 4 years make me want to throw up. Regularly makes me want to throw up. As a matter of fact, Rhett and I had a discussion this morning, and my response was, "Hey, please don't make me vomit right now," because we were talking about some really big moves and making sure that we were in the right place to make those moves. But at the end of the day, we both sort of have the attitude that it's just money, and money comes and goes. And if we could take a huge risk, spending a lot of money to make a good decision or something that could be a good decision, we'll do it. And I think that that's why Aethon has been successful, because we'll take the risks that I think a lot of other folks don't want to take.
Well, you both have families too, right? So in the back of your mind, that's why you're throwing up. Probably if it was just you,
Oh,
you'd
for
be
sure.
a lot less likely to puke. And
Maybe
I know
less throwing up.
right. I know, in my own writing, like I wouldn't be able to do it if I didn't have people supporting me. I imagine your families, and I know, I think both your wives traveled with you to Vegas for 20 books, right? I mean, they're, I would imagine, as much a part of this as anything.
No, they just wanted free food and drinks.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, both.
Well, they
kind
could
of
have gone to Vegas without you for that.
They humor us by listening to us say what's going on, but that's
My wife's gotten to a point where she hears so many things that she just goes, I don't even know what this means anymore.
yeah. Tell me when it really happens.
Tell me when it happens.
Yeah, like that's kind of the attitude.
And then it happens, and they're like, "Didn't that already happen?" Like, no, I just told you.
That's so Rhett, what are your secrets to success?
I
I knew
thought
I
we
would
couldn't
stump
share
you.
those.
So what's next for Aethon that you can share, and what is next in your new series?
Yeah, so I mean, for Aethon, we have a ton of releases coming up this year. Summer will be a little slower, but fall we have a bunch coming. We're working on scheduling releases from Jonathan Mayberry and Scott Siegler for some big authors, which will be really cool. And we're working on some sub-rights things that hopefully will come to fruition that we can't really share yet, but if they do come true, it'll be pretty cool. And as far as the rest of the series, we'll have to finish writing it, but everyone will expect to see book 2 in May of next year. We don't really have any other choice, so that's when it'll come out, and hopefully there'll be a TV show by then.
Yeah,
You're laughing
I'm laughing because like we have the pre-release date set, and so his response was, "We have no other choice," and that's just the truth of it, right? If we don't write it, it's bad. But we have the whole thing sort of plotted and outlined for book 2, and we have a couple of scenes written. But day by day, we're just texting each other like, "So do we write today?" There's this weird pressure, right? Because building up to Cold as Hell, Dead Acre did so freaking well on Audible Originals. We didn't know what to expect from Cold as Hell because, like you said, we're talking about a genre that hardly exists. Weird Westerns. What's sort of funny is that the first book Aethon ever published was a Weird Western by Haley Stone. It was called Make Me No Grave. And I think up until this point, Make Me No Grave might have been one of the best, if not, I don't know, maybe the best Weird Western seller of all
combine all the formats.
Combine formats.
Yeah, maybe.
But I mean, I know there's some big names. There's Lansdale. There's names out there. So I can't say any of that for certain. But like when we published Make Me No Grave, I got inundated with messages and emails from other authors. Like, does that mean that Weird Westerns? Can I write a Weird Western? And my answer was no. This was I don't know, kismet, magic. I don't know what it was. We had the right plan, the right structure. And as a matter of fact, I started writing James Crowley. I would say probably that 7,000 words came out of my love for Haley Stone's Make Me No Grave. I had read it maybe 2 or 3 times, and I just loved what she did with that genre. And then Dead Acre came out, and the same thing happened. Well, it was harder for me to say to people, no, Weird Westerns don't sell, because we just did it twice, and now 3 times. But if you go through Amazon and look at the number of Weird Westerns that flopped, it's massive. The numbers are massive because it is a fun genre, and it proves that everyone wants it. Right? Mandalorian, we could call a sci-fi Western. Firefly, we could do the same thing.
Yeah.
And so everyone loves a Western. I think they just don't know it. And then with Dead Acre, Cold as Hell, the Black Badge series, we structured it in such a way that like we got Roger Clark, we got the Red Dead Redemption folks, we got Stephen S. Gibson, who did the artwork, which was absolutely some of the best artwork I've ever seen. We had the plan with Audible Originals and the Audible Plus, like sort of free. It's free to everybody to listen to. And then teaming up with Blackstone, as you mentioned, we own our own publishing company. And people always ask me, why didn't you just publish it yourself? And we said, because Weird Westerns are that hard. We wanted to make sure that we had the best possible opportunities. And for us, that meant taking every resource we had as Aethon and teaming up with another publisher that we trusted through a good friend, Nicholas Sansbury Smith, right? Like we knew we could trust Blackstone with it. And so we just went, okay, let's all do this together so that we could actually put out a successful book in a genre that's really damn hard to sell.
What's interesting to me, I think, among other things, is you started as sort of sci-fi fantasy, and now you've had a lot of success with lit RPG. Did you foresee that at all when you first started Aethon?
No.
And are you surprised? How surprised are you by the success, the consistent success of the books that you publish in that very niche genre that is incredibly popular?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we started basically only focusing on science fiction, right? Like Haley Stone's Make Me No Grave was because I knew her from Random House and she was a good friend and no one had signed it. And we were like, well, let's do it. And, you know, otherwise we basically were all science fiction. Like besides me and Steve's own series, that was fantasy. Our first year was very heavy science fiction. And we started to get into fantasy. And then some of our authors in fantasy started to want to write lit RPG or progression based stuff. And we found we were better at selling that. And I think a lot of that is not our fault, right? It's Amazon. Traditional epic fantasy is really hard to sell, and it's really dominated still by a few big indies and traditional publishers. But you know, we found a lot of great authors and a great community and a niche where we were able to kind of sell a lot of what we sell in science fiction, which is fun. And that's where we've always had most of our science fiction success is stuff that's not like heavy concept and exhausting by the end, but stuff that readers will find fun. And so we sort of found that niche for us in fantasy as well.
Yeah, and I think Rhett and I really get along with. I hope to say we get along with all of our authors. We love our authors, but you know, we're like-minded with the lit RPG group in the sense that we're video game junkies. I play D&D every Tuesday night. I mean, there's this camaraderie that exists among geeks that dig stats and weird things that most people wouldn't expect to find in a book, and so. You know, we have a Discord channel and we're constantly in there talking with authors, and we're on our Facebook page and we're constantly talking with our authors. And I think that's, you know, yes, the success of Aethon. One of the things I attested to is the fact that we just love talking to our authors and sometimes to our detriment, right? Because I should be working and instead I'm having a 45-minute long chat.
And yeah, that's why Steve gets worried, but I find every year we're always worried about not getting stuff done. And then we hit our slower periods and get stuff done because it's just easier to focus when we don't have multiple releases a week and everyone asking questions and stuff, right? Like we purposefully create some down periods for us based on needing that and just the market performance in general. So I do think that helps because we aren't like other publishers where you basically talk to one handler or kind of email and wait days to get answers back. Like we're in Facebook chat groups with everyone. We're on Discord and all sorts of stuff.
Well, I do appreciate you guys taking the time. I know both of you have busy personal lives and professional lives. So thank you for talking with me about Cold as Hell and Aethon. Anything else either of you want to add before we go?
I want to add what's next for Tom Abrams, because you made the joke that that one of them was forgettable, but the Jackson Quick series was actually one of my favorite book series that I've read. I absolutely devoured it and loved every second of it. Watchers I thought was really great too. But like, what's funny is the one that sold really well, which was the Watchers books, didn't captivate me the same way. And maybe it's just because I'm from Texas and the Jackson Quick series took place in Texas and all of that. But like, I thought those were fantastic books. So I'd love to know what you're doing next and if we're involved on the spot.
Well, what I'm doing next, I think, is I hit end broadcast and post this. So I'm writing book 4. Finished book 4 of my Crusader series, which I did on my own. Book 5 is next. I'm working on another project which you guys may know about that I can't talk about publicly yet. And I have some ideas and maybe approaching you guys about one in particular.
Cool.
So how coy was that?
That was so coy.
So much revealed.
It's almost like I'm protecting my secrets about how to make a publishing company successful.
Yeah, that was like when Rhett was like, we've got a lot of cool stuff coming up, and if it happens, it'll be cool. I'm like,
I mean, like, that's about all we're allowed to say.
I in my day job, I interview politicians a lot. You guys are right up there with them in terms of deflecting. So, well, thanks again. I really appreciate you guys taking the time, and good luck with this book and the series and everything at Aethon. One last chance to sell something if you want to before we go.
Hey, if you want to check out Cold as Hell, it is currently it's a bestseller, so it's right at the top of the list. So you can find it. Rhett, Steve, Bruno, and Jaime Castle. It's called Cold as Hell. If you want to get a sort of a taste for the series, maybe before committing to buying, and you're an Audible Plus member, you can check out Dead Acre for free. It's 3.5 hours long. It is probably one of the greatest narration performances you will ever experience in your life. And that comes from a guy that listens to like 200 books a year. And it's not because I wrote it, because I've listened to every other book I have, and I think they're all great. But like, Roger Clark does something special that I just have not heard a whole lot. You can check out all of our other books on Jaime Castle, JAIME Castle.com or RhettBruno.com. And then Aethon Books, AETHON Books.com.
Yeah,
Awesome.
If you haven't, go read Bar at the End of the World by Tom Abrams, which we published and I edited, and I really love that book.
Oh, well, thanks. I appreciate it, guys. And we all benefit from that.
Yeah.
Well, good luck. Good luck. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll chat in Facebook Messenger soon.
Thanks.
Thank you, Tom.
All right. Bye, guys.